Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here, and welcome to episode 10 of Gold Goes to the Movies. What a landmark! We've reached double figures. Thank you to all of those that have come this far to celebrate reaching what, let's be honest, isn't the biggest milestone in the world. I did something for the first time today in terms of a cinematic release. I went to watch a movie in 4DX. I've just somehow never managed to do it. It was brilliant. It was an absolute blast. We'll have a little chat about that and the various kind of advantages, disadvantages, sensations that it all brings, and we'll explain exactly what it is for anyone that might not be aware of it when we're talking about this. So we've got 4 movies this week, all of them 2024 movies. We've got Alien Romulus, Twisters, both of those two saw at the cinema, Kingdom and Planet of the Apes, which I watched on Disney Plus, and Bob Marley One Love, which I watched on Paramount Plus. Yes, I watched it on that. I'm going to start with, should just obviously point out the obvious. The movie prop is from my oldest daughter. It just hasn't gone up on the wall yet. I've got a couple of framed movie posters that need to go up, so that's that, and the t-shirt speaks for itself, of course. So, Twisters, that's what I'm going to start with. I know it's slightly older than Alien Romulus, but that's what I went to see today in 4DX at a Cineworld. It's a little bit further away from me, but it has IMAX and 4DX, so it's where I go for the big presentations, as it were. And it was my youngest daughter's recommendation, actually, because she'd seen Twisters both standard format, but also in 4DX. And she said, "You've got to try it." So I did. It was excellent. I loved it. It was so much fun. If you're not aware of what 4DX is, it's this kind of interactive, immersive experience. How to describe it? I mean, actually, I should start off by saying I think it's exclusive in the UK and Ireland to the Cineworld chain of movies, but I think elsewhere in the world, like America, I think it's more of a thing, perhaps. How do I describe it? So the cinema seats move. They kind of jolt around in terms of what's happening on the screen. There's lighting effects in the room. There's wind. There's a tiny bit of water, like kind of misty water. You've got a button to choose whether you have the water effects or not. It's not like you get drenched. You might feel the tiniest drop. A little bit of smoke, and all of that probably sounds really, really cheesy. And you're thinking, why the world would you want that in your movie experience? What I would suggest, maybe the most similar thing I can kind of link it with is if you've ever been to any of the theme parks in America, like Disney and Universal, they have rides they have theatre experiences that have some of these elements of this, like Muppets, Shrek, Bugs Life, stuff like that. And it's kind of in that vein. It's so much better than it sounds. I've made it sound really naff and cheesy. And it's not. I mean, the best example I can give you is, so in Twisters, you're just suddenly watching it and you just feel like this breeze kind of getting stronger and stronger across the room. And suddenly the characters in the movie start looking across and realise that there's a tornado forming in the distance. And it's just little things it's actually used quite subtly. Yeah, there's some kind of jolty kind of stuff when you get into bigger moments, but it's actually used really cleverly in the build up to stuff. Like I say, it very much feels like you're a character within it all. It's not like going to some 3D movie where they're like, whoa, in your face and all this sort of stuff to try and make the most of the glasses you're wearing, proper old school 3D. But little things like if there's a flash of lightning in the movie, is the flash of lightning in the room. There's a light that kind of just suddenly flashes. If there's a moment in the film where there's a drone that goes over looking at the weather, and in your seat you're kind of going up and down slightly to the rhythm of that. And same as if you're in a car. If there's a scene where they're racing in a truck, your seat is kind of going over some of the bumps as well. Again, it sounds so much cheesier than it actually is in practice. And of course, when the tornado comes, you're just feels like you're being pulled around as part of it. It's not, I should stress, it's not like you're on a roller coaster. You're not going to be thrown right, you're not going to fall out your seat or anything. It's just these kind of jolts and movements that really just add to it. The programming that must be involved is so clever. just everything about it. Like there's a rainy sequence, and you just kind of feel this slight mist of rain in the air. It's very, very cleverly done. It's perfectly in tune with the movie. And it's, definitely the most immersive experience I've ever had in a cinema. Like I say, I've done those things like the Muppets, Bugs Life, and things like that, and Muppets 4D, I think it's called in America. And this isn't like this. This doesn't detract from the movie or distract you from the movie. It's part of it, and it's very clever. My daughter went to see both. She loved Twisters as a movie, but she also loved this presentation, this version of it as well. And I think that kind of tells its own story. It's not gimmicky. It costs a little bit more. I think it's £3 or £4 more here in the UK, but it's really good. It felt like I'd gone out to kind of tame these tornadoes or wrangle these tornadoes, as is said in the movie. Might come as a bit of a shock to you if you're not aware that you've gone into such a screening of the movie. It would definitely shock you, but I'm sure most people that would book that up would hopefully know what they're in for. But it's the only thing I would say is I'm not entirely sure how it would fit other movies, like with the elements and Mother Nature and all of that comes into play in Twisters. It was perfect because every single thing about 4DX was utilised to its peak and really, really well. I don't know whether I would enjoy it as much if it was just like some kind of action movie and you're kind of in the middle of it. And I don't know. I don't know about that. Interestingly, it held the record, Twisters, for the biggest box office from 4DX. I think it made a couple of million or something, which beat the previous holder, which was Super Mario Brothers. That has now been surpassed by Deadpool and Wolverine. You see, I don't know whether the experience of watching Deadpool and Wolverine would have been enhanced by watching it in 4DX. I could be wrong. Please, if you've seen it in that, let me know what it was like. Whereas I just feel like Twisters, it was just the absolute perfect fit of anything I can possibly imagine for 4DX. It was excellent. So, what about the film itself? I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was a big fan of the original film. I watched it a couple of years ago again, actually, because I think it was on one of the TV channels. It's one of those movies that's so easy to sit down and watch again. The original, if you don't know, starred Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton. And if I'm going to be honest, I actually think this one might be even better. And I love the original, but this one, it's such a ride of a movie. But it's also got drama. It's got a heart to it. It's got plot, quite a strong plot to it as well. It's very, very well put together. It's not a direct sequel. I think early in development it was maybe going to go that way, and then it was going to become a reboot. And now it's kind of like this standalone movie that just happens to be about the same subject. The two main leads are Daisy Edgar-Jones, you might know from Where the Crawdads Sing. She's been in various British TV shows as well. And man of the moment, Glenn Powell, who you'll know from Hitman, which we reviewed in a previous episode. Anyone But You, which we also reviewed in a previous episode. And Top Gun Maverick as well. He is just, you're now the Hollywood leading man of the moment. He is, and he's terrific. He and Daisy Edgar-Jones are terrific in Twisters. They've got great chemistry, really works together. It was a bit like, Anyone But You, we spoke about before, and Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney had this kind of a chemistry. It was more a kind of a taking pot shots at each other chemistry. I felt the Daisy Edgar-Jones and Glenn Powell chemistry was more believable for me. It really worked well. It swung in different directions, but it had kind of quite a sweet core to it, which is not the way you expect it's going to go. It's quite rare in this being a big action movie, this type kind of tentpole summer blockbuster. But actually, the main leads have, and some of the other characters have quite a strong development arc in their character. Or maybe more that we learn more about them as the movie goes on, and that opens them up a bit more and allows you to kind of see more colours, as it were, of their character. Both excellent, both Very good at the dramatic stuff, both very good at the action scenes, of which there are many superb sequences. There are so many. I'm not going to reel them off because if you haven't seen these before, these are spoiler-free movie reviews. I don't really want to give anything away if I can. But there are so many little clever set-piece scenes that they're not just thrown in there for the sake of it. They're all very much integral to the plot and the way it works through. But they're just beautifully handled. Other supporting actors, Anthony Ramos, you'll know him probably from In the Heights, if not that. Hamilton, if not that, A Star is Born. Also Transformers Rise of the Beasts, he was in that as well. He's very good in Twisters, in a role that could easily have gone either way. It could be a character that you dislike, or one that kind of could have been a bit too sickly sweet, but he's quite a kind of a nuanced character. Yeah, very good. We've also got the Superman-to-be in David Corenswet. His role is very different to what I think we'll be seeing him as James Gunn's Superman when he gets when his turn as the Man in the Cape comes out. Yeah, this is definitely a different character, and that's all I'm going to say. Sasha Lane from American Honey's got a nice little role as well. Maura Tierney, who we spoke about in a recent one as well, a recent video as well. She's very good. Who else have we got in there? Kiernan Shipka, who's from Mad Men, more recently Longlegs, she's in it as well. Katie O'Brien from Love Lies Bleeding, The Mandalorian and Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is also in it. There's a really good supporting cast because, without giving too much away, there's two dueling companies that chase Twisters, or groups, let's call them. And so there's quite a nice, like, the kind of cast of characters on each side that can be fleshed out nicely. And yeah, they're all very good. So the original Twister, you might remember, was directed by Jan de Bont. I think that was after Speed. I think it was in the wake of that. The original Twister was written by Michael Crichton and his wife Anne-Marie Martin. So Helen Hunt was one of the original stars. She was trying to pitch in recent years more of a direct sequel, which I think maybe would have involved her and kind of young groups of storm chasers, as it were. She was trying to pitch this, and I think she was going to direct it as well, Helen Hunt. She was trying to get that around studios, but couldn't get it off the ground. And roughly the same time, they managed to get what started as a reboot and ended up becoming this Twisters that we see now. Tough luck on Helen Hunt. And yeah, I mean, I don't think this is spoiling anything because I think it's been out there in the public domain, but she's not in this movie. And there's a point in this movie where it kind of feels like it's leading up to her being in it, and she's not. You'll see what I mean. Like I say, it's not giving anything away because it's been quite clearly kind of put out there that this isn't really... I don't know whether it's meant to be in the same universe. I think it is because of some little nods to certain things. I think it is, but it's not really containing any of the same characters. Although a little bit of trivia for you, James Paxton, who's the son of Bill Paxton, does turn up in a very small role as a complaining customer of a motel with his girlfriend. And I thought that was quite nice. Just getting the late Bill Paxton's son in there as well. Steven Spielberg involved again. He was one of the original producers. He really loved this version and this script, which was why I think this version was the one that ended up getting greenlit. You know, Spielberg says, yes, that's normally a pretty good backing for something. And he actually made quite an important note. There was a filmed scene at the end of this movie that didn't actually end up appearing in the final cut because of a little note from Spielberg. I won't say what it was, but I would definitely say I think he was right. It stopped it going into a bit more of a cliched area, which this movie kind of does steer away from quite a lot. Like I say, the direction also is excellent. It's Lee Isaac Chung, who hasn't done loads of stuff before. He's done the indie drama Minari, but he's also, probably quite importantly, worked for Lucasfilm, directed an episode of The Mandalorian, and that probably gave him a lot of the kind of training experience in a way to handle a film like this, and he nails it. Special effects are great. The action sequences are terrific. The movie has made $350 million worldwide. it's done well, but interestingly, there's a feeling that it hasn't done as well internationally as maybe was hoped. I mean, 350 million worldwide, 250 million of that is from the US alone. There's a suggestion that maybe because it's very much set in the deep south, in the American South, and perhaps that setting doesn't translate as well to an international audience. That's the thinking behind the lower numbers. I think it's a big shame. It was very well reviewed, and I'm reviewing it very well as well. I think it's a fantastic movie. I really, really enjoyed it. I would love there to be a sequel because I do think there's more you can do with it. But yeah, it's if you get the chance to see it on a big screen, absolutely do. It's a big screen, proper kind of summer blockbuster. If you get the chance to do 4DX, I would really recommend it. It's not as gimmicky as I probably made it sound. It can be very like I say, that bit got me when there was something brewing and you could just feel a little bit of a chill and the breeze started to build within the room. That was like, whoa. That when you're actually using it to enhance the experience, that's very, very cool. So yeah, Twisters, really, really enjoyed that. I absolutely got swept up in it. I did, pardon the expression and the pun. Next up is another enjoyable trip to the cinema, actually. Albeit without moving chairs and wind and all that sort of stuff, was Alien Romulus. Should say, as with Twister, I'm a big fan of the Alien movies. I really am. Love the originals. To a degree, the prequels, I thought they were good. I wasn't absolutely blown away by them, but they were good. The messy Predator versus spliced up movies, less so. Watch them all. You know, they kind of do their job. But they're nowhere near the same league as the originals. The originals just wonderful cinema. Alien and Aliens are just absolute classics of genre. They just spawned so many kind of rip-offs since, really. It inspired like a generation of different kinds of sci-fi movies. Alien 3 I liked as well because I'm a big David Fincher fan, so I really enjoyed that. I also even liked chunks of Alien Resurrection, mainly any part that had Sigourney Weaver in it because she was absolutely badass in it. She was so good. So Alien Romulus is set in between Alien and Aliens in the chronology. It's set in the year 2142, and it kind of takes the protagonist. It takes a bit of a different focus of it. It swings to a different kind of age group. It's quite a young group. Maybe, I'm guessing here, maybe they're supposed to be in their late teens, early 20s. They're a group of young people that are essentially trying to find a way to better their lives that they currently are on. They're on it's like a mining planet, working for the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, the famous ones from the original movies. And then they find that there's this old ship that they could scavenge. Who would have thought it? There's aliens on there. If only someone had told them. I really liked this kind of refreshing of the whole franchise with this younger group. It really, really worked. It's just quite literally livened up the whole series. It just gives it this whole different feel to it, this kind of naivety of the characters. And yeah, it was very, very well done. It's in brilliant hands. Fede Alvarez, the director, he knows his suspense and horror. He's done Don't Breathe, Evil Dead. He absolutely nails the kind of balance here between the sci-fi, the horror elements, the darkness, the grit, the gore. It's just, it was. I really, really came out of it just thinking, that was a cracking movie. It's really so full of suspense. He used a lot of the original special effects experts that worked on Aliens to have more practical effects with the actual creatures, and it works. It feels less digital and more kind of in the moment practical effects. As with Twisters, if you can see it in the cinema, you really should. If you can't, watch it on your biggest TV screen and turn all the lights off. Immerse yourself into this kind of claustrophobic world of this spaceship that they're in. Yeah, it's just thinking back in my head, some of the set pieces are so good. The scenes, just all within the darkness and confines of this ship. The face huggers, you might remember from the original movies, they are used so well in this film. They kind of, in the past, they were like creepy little things that would set everything off. In this movie, they kind of have their own scary kind of moments and bigger scenes, and yeah, brilliantly used. And that's before you even get the big guys come out to play. They are, yeah, it's excellent. Cast are brilliant. Cast are brilliant. You've got Kaylee Spaney, terrific lead. She holds it all together. Apologies if I'm absolutely killing the pronunciation of her name. You'll find I do that a lot. Watched her recently in Civil War. She was excellent in that. Alex Garden's Civil War. She's so good in that. She's in Priscilla as well. Alongside her is David Johnson, who's, I can't really go into his role too much. He plays, let's say it's kind of two parts within one, and he's very, very good in this. He's a Brit. There's like a trio of male Brits in there. There's him, there's Archie Renault and Spike Fern. They're kind of the good guys and bad guys in a way of this little group of youngsters. Even the bad guys, there's a little backstory there as well. And you've got Isabella Merced and Eileen Wu, who both are kind of, one's more of a, I don't want to go as far to say matriarchal figure, it's probably too much, but definitely is someone that binds the group together. And Eileen Wu's like essentially a pilot tech person and has a brilliant scene. They both have each of them has a big scene that they do very well, with some brilliant effects in both as well. Yeah, there's a whole kind of theme of siblings in this movie, which you'll see when you watch it. Tons of nods towards the original films, including the prequels, Prometheus and Alien Covenant as well. Massive nod to the first film, Alien. I can't really talk about because it is a spoiler. I'd be interested to see know what people think about it. It was a bit of a controversial thing as well. For me, it works in moments, but in other moments doesn't work. It doesn't look too great digitally in certain aspects. You'll know what I mean if you've seen it. If you haven't, you'll know after you've watched it. Yeah, I went into this with some reservations, this movie. It's not perfect. There's some of the ending, I was a bit like, I didn't make that noise in the cinema. But yeah, there's some elements to it that felt a little bit like, I kind of feel like I've seen that before. But overall, it just takes you along for the ride. A bit like Twister's, but in a different way, this darker, terrifying kind of way. Not that tornadoes aren't terrifying, but yeah, this one, it's very much one of those movies that, you know, anyone could perish at any time. You know, as many of the best kind of disaster horror films are, and yeah, it's definitely got that element to it, and yeah, it's really good. It's kind of, I would put it right up there in the series. I would maybe just sit it underneath Aliens. I really do. Like I've always said, I like Alien 3 a lot, but I kind of feel like as an updating, as a refresh of the whole thing, I really like this. I would just slot it in there. It might be controversial. Some people may like the prequels. People might like others. But I thought it was excellent. It's just brings this whole new life to the whole cast adrift in space horror kind of element, and it had the big vibes of Alien. It's probably the one it takes the most from, I would feel, but there are definitely Aliens elements to it as well. And yeah, Spaney is a great successor to Ripley. I'm hoping it's not Speeny, it may be Speeny, but it sounds like Spaney. She's a great successor to Sigourney Weaver's Ripley. It could really take this into its saga of its own. They've got 37 years of the Alien universe to play with until it gets to Aliens. So you've got this little span of time where you could kind of make your own little trilogy within it if you wanted to, and I would absolutely go and watch that. It's already made $227 million at the box office, and that should continue to climb. It's a very, very effective entrant into the Alien franchise, and up there for me. There's actually an Alien TV series that's coming along soon. I think it's got Tim Oliphant in it as well. I think it's maybe on FX. Looking forward to see what they do with that and how that kind of translates to the world of TV. But yeah, Alien Romulus, if you can get to see it, please do. Next up, is the fourth instalment on the Planet of the Apes saga, which is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Technically, it's a 10th movie in the series. There's been a lot of movies about the Planet of the Apes. I like these movies. I do. They pretty much all hit the mark for me. They're emotional, but with action as well. Brilliant special effects. Yeah, I do. They're kind of films that my wife and I both like as well. They're quite nice to be able to go and see together. This one is set. If you watch the original trilogy, the trilogy that's come from the most recent reboot of the films. Matt Reeves, I think, did he do all of them? He certainly did a couple of them, maybe all of them. This one is set years after that, so you might remember Caesar was the main ape from that trilogy. He's long gone, but not forgotten at all. The apes now have advanced a lot more, while the humans are kind of living almost like animals in this kind of feral existence. But mainly this is about clashes between tribes of apes who have differing views on life, but also the way humans are treated. It's kind of flipping a lot of the current world around. This one is directed by Wes Ball, who knows his kind of big action, the films. He did the 3 of the Maze Runner films. He handles everything very well, from the drama to the action. Owen Teague is in it as the main ape Noah. You might know him. He kind of played a supporting role in the 2 most recent It movies, and he was also very good in a show that I loved called Bloodline on Netflix. He played a younger version of one of the main characters, and also another character. He was very, very good in it as well. Kevin Durand, who plays a frequent baddie. He just looks like a baddie. The guy is made a very good living out of having the look of someone that would be a baddie in a film. And he continues that trend in this. He plays the ape Proximus Caesar, who's a very good bad character, bad monkey, whatever you want to call it. Human characters in this movie, you've got Freya Allen, who I really like in The Witcher. She's excellent in that. She's very good in this. William H. Macy also pops up as well as the film goes on in a good little role, which is it's an important little role in the film as well. And it's just superb. The effects are really good, as they always are in these films. I think they use some of the techniques they use in Avatar: Way of the Water. And yeah, it's got a strong story as well. That's a key thing to it. It's with all these films, they're very much kind of plot led, and that shows on the screen. That they're good yarns, they're good tales, and you want to. That's why you kind of keep coming back to them. You want to see what happens next in this world. Box office going into it again, $400 million worldwide. It's about to reach, or it's almost reached. It's meant to be the first in a new trilogy after the original ones, and I'll be there. I'll be there for the next one. They're very good films. Like I say, it's on Disney Plus. If you've got that, it's quite a long film. It's about 2 hours 40 maybe, but it's very, very good. Final movie of the bunch, Bob Marley, One Love. Probably the weakest of the bunch for me. Although, to be fair, the other 3 are really good films, so it's a strong category. It's a perfectly serviceable biopic. It's okay, but I just feel like with how much happened in Bob Marley's life, which I now know, it kind of feels like they skimmed over the surface of it rather than really drilling into certain elements of his life. I definitely came out knowing more than I did to begin with, absolutely. But I just feel there was so many kind of parts of his life, which was an extraordinary life. I didn't realise how kind of caught up in the middle of politics he was in Jamaica, how difficult it was for him to kind of almost take a side, and just how the adversity came from and through to be Bob Marley, to become the huge global kind of musical influence that he ended up becoming in that album Exodus and everything. It just was a huge figure in music he became. And look, Kingsley Ben-Adir is very, very good as Bob Marley. He's terrific actor. You might know him from One Night in Miami. He played Malcolm X. He was in the Marvel series Secret Invasion. It also popped up in Barbie, actually, as one of the Kens as well. He's superb, and he absolutely kind of lives and breathes the role. He's very, very believable in it. His wife, Rita, is played by Lashana Lynch. She's also superb. You if you're thinking, where have I seen her before? It might be as Maria Rambeau in Captain Marvel or The Marvels. She's also very good in No Time to Die as well. She's superb in No Time to Die. And it's all directed by Ronaldo Marcus Green, who directed King Richard, which is excellent, and episodes of TV shows like We Own the Night, Top Boy, things like that. He does a good job. Like I say, it's with the kind of the script and what they decide to delve into, it's perfectly fine. It's an all right film. The acting is good. The music, of course, is wonderful. But like I say, it just feels like you're like on a boat bobbing over something without realizing all this stuff underneath the water that's really gone on. And just for instance, like, it gets to the end of the movie, and Bob Marley's got loads of children. And you're kind of thinking, what? Where do they kind of come from? You're kind of alluded to, but never really kind of get to see him be a father at any point in the film as well. And there's a lot of good stuff in the movie about the things he stood for and the terrific kind of character he was in being so kind of strong in his beliefs and things like that, and sometimes how it would affect him. But it never really grounds him as a human throughout it. You almost see him as this iconic character rather than really seeing the human behind him, and that's what I feel it was maybe missing. But it's absolutely fine. It's good. I saw it on Paramount Plus. It's on there if you want to watch it. Perfectly good way to kind of while away a couple of hours on a Saturday night, but it maybe just could have been more than that. To continue the box office trend, $180 million worldwide it's made as well. So that's a bunch of movies this week. I've now got myself a Cineworld Unlimited card. So I used to have one when I was very, very young, teenager, maybe early 20s. So I've kind of gone back in time, but they're very cool things. It just allows me to go to the cinema as much as I like, rather than... because I'm not plugging it, I'm not advertising it in any way, but very much like if you go twice, you've paid back your monthly money for it. It's good for someone that wants to go to the cinema a lot, and I'm quite lucky because I've got a couple of Cineworlds either side of me, about 25 minutes in each direction, and this big one, which I went and saw the 4DX in as well, my IMAX movie. So yeah. It all works very nicely. Some good movies coming up on the horizon as well, hopefully in the next month. We've got Beetlejuice, which comes out next week, which I'm very much looking forward to. Speak No Evil, the James McAvoy one, which looks very cool. Wolves comes after that with George Clooney and Brad Pitt, which is on Apple, I think. I'm trying to think if it comes out of cinema briefly as well. May do. Megalopolis, new Francis Ford Coppola movie, comes out with Adam Driver. Hellboy the Crooked Man comes out as well in September. And in October brings a load of other stuff. The new Joker film and things like that. But we'll talk about that as we get a bit closer. But there you go. That's the bunch of movies this week. 3 really, really excellent movies. 1 decent movie. So yeah, nothing to really complain about too much this week. But... if you can still get to the cinema to watch Alien Romulus and Twisters, do. Twisters is a bit more difficult to find. I pretty much only could find it in 4DX, which was handy because I wanted to watch it in that way. But Alien Romulus, I'd imagine, will be out for another couple of weeks or so. But yeah, brilliant stuff. Really, really enjoyable week of watching movies. Some other little ones I've been watching as well. Just very quickly tagging on the end. Midnight Run was on telly. I watched that again the other night. Oh, I love that film. That is up there for me. Robert De Niro, Charles Grodin, one of De Niro's best kind of non-big dramatic roles for me. I love that movie. It just moves along at such a great pace. The music's fantastic. If you've never seen Midnight Run, watch it. It's absolutely brilliant. And other little bits and pieces I've watched this week. But we'll maybe do more in-depth stuff on them in future ones. Time to head off. Go watch some movies. That's what I'm going to do. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, look after yourselves. I shall catch you later. Goodbye.